Hello and welcome to another episode of the O3C podcast coming to you from O3C Games. My name is Jonathan Dunn and I am delighted to be joined by, here's a twist, it's Chris.
Late night
Twist
thunderstorms. Oh!
And we are going around the world in zero fucks. In 80 games. Before we dive into our return to our Around the World in 80 Games Odyssey, we just wanted to quickly say a big thank you to all of the wonderful people who have got in touch in response to our series of Playdate specials. It's been fantastic hearing from so many developers at the games in question and to open dialogue with you. We're planning on putting a plan together to plan a potential follow-up special episode of the Playdate special featuring interviews with some of the Playdate Season 2 devs. So if you are one of those and want to be a part of it, or if there's anyone else who thinks they'd be interesting on the show, get in touch and we'll get you on. We are at O3C Games on everything. Blue Sky is maybe the best place to reach us at the moment, or TikTok, or Instagram, I believe, or YouTube. Your tube. Is that it? No, I can't remember.
Yeah.
You are a tube.
At O3C Games.
I am... Or you can go to our website, o3c.games, and join our Discord using the link there. And, we'll make memories together.
Excellent.
Chris, we are back.
We are bloody well back.
Well, we had a big old play day, didn't we?
Oh, it's been weeks. I can't actually remember the last time we recorded talking not about Playdate stuff.
I know.
Because it's been 2 months, 2.5 months, 3 months.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Let's flush out the rest of the Playdate in our system right now. Because you must have a little Playdate update. I'll just play half of the jingle.
Yeah, just cut it dead in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning, I guess, that, since we finished our Playdate Season 2 coverage, that all wrapped up, there's been a number of game updates that have arrived for several of the games, and I thought it was worth mentioning some of those, just in passing, essentially, because some of the things we might have critiqued about games have directly influenced patches that have then gone on to come out. And that makes...
Verbatim.
yeah, basically. So it makes me feel quite good that it's like, I must have had a good opinion. And, the stuff we talked about must have been valuable to these developers. But also, I think some of the criticisms we had sometimes have been addressed pretty comprehensively by some of these developers. So I think it is worth just saying some of the things that have come out in the last few weeks. So first up, Shadowgate PD's developer Pixel Ghost updated the crusty old adventure to include, like you say, almost verbatim, the disclaimer style intro message that I proposed in our review.
We're racist, Disney.
Yeah, basically. So it contextualizes the game properly. It talks about its development. It even gives a hint as to the first puzzle that had you stumped with the little, head above the door. And it's a small but really necessary quality of life tweak that really improves the whole experience, because then whether or not you're going to spend hours and hours and hours bashing your head against it, you at least understand what this game is. And I think that's what was missing for some people if you didn't have the knowledge of what Shadowgate had been previously. Next up, Taria and Como, a game that we praised in our final episode with Jeremy, but I know that both you and Jeremy did have real issues with performance.
Yeah.
It's had a few patches since then,
but we also know why.
We do. So,
which is something I had no idea about until Kip, the developer, jumped on our Discord for a really, really good chat.
Yeah, it was really interesting because I'd hypothesized with you off air that there were two models of Playdates, very subtle differences, but I know that launch models are sometimes known as A models, and then models they're now producing are known as B models. And I didn't know which one I had, but I had to replace my device at some point because my screen broke. And it turns out I had a B model. So when I was saying, I don't think the performance is that bad, that's because, as Kip, the developer, mentioned, the game was kind of tested and ran pretty well on B models. Yeah. And they didn't realise some of the problems that were going to stick out on those kind of launch units. So the patches that have come out have addressed a lot of the problems. I don't know if it's completely solved for kind of all models, but certainly for me, it's now basically buttery smooth. It still has issues with some of the dithering effects and things like that, even with the screen flicker toggle that's now in game.
Yeah,
but I think it's always going to be a limit just because of the way that the screen works, basically, and the art they've attempted to use for it. But I think it's still nice to at least be able to say they are working actively to try and improve performance as much as possible for all machines. And it is something that they are aware of and are actively looking to make better. So if it is still causing people problems, hold out for a month or two and it might end up getting sorted. So
Fine, Playdate.
That's the other option.
Yeah.
The nuclear option. And you can have a bloody good time. Finally, and this is a really exciting one, Top Bins. Top Bins! The Garbage Man simulator that we reviewed when it had its catalogue launch, it's had a massive 2.0 update. And it improves everything, absolutely everything we critiqued in our review, every single thing we mentioned. And it makes
the O3C update.
You might... Like, I don't know if anyone else gave that granular.
2.03C.
I don't know if anyone else gave that granular feedback, but every single thing down to like the mini map, down to kind of how timers work, how the bins were randomized, how the animation system works, everything's been tweaked. And it really does feel like all the things we said, it would have been good if it did that. He's gone away and gone, well, it could do that.
It does that. And now
it's
good.
Now an infinitely better game. Like, I really can wholeheartedly recommend it. I played through the whole thing now, had a lot of fun. And if you want a Diner Dash style time management thing on the go, you've got it. You know, it's a fun time. There's just so many little tweaks that make it more fun. So, you know, the mini map, like I said, take it from Defender, is exactly what has been put in, as I suggested. But there's also now less steps needed to load and unload the lorry. You don't have to press buttons to go into the dump and things like that. It was. There's notifications for when bins are put out. There's animation fixes, performance tweaks, everything. So Top Bins has become top stuff.
Bins.
So yeah, grab it on the catalogue or wishlist it if you don't want to pay full price. And I'm sure at some stage it'll come down $1 or $2 and be a nice little treat for you.
Good game.
Yeah, that's a mini Playdate update.
Well, we've done a lot of gaming aside from playdating in the last couple of months, because it has been 2 months now since we did a proper episode.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's start. You know what? Let's bring back the headlines.
We haven't heard that jingle in a while.
I know. Here it comes. My first headline is I have no headlines. So, I mean, I've played a small smattering of games on my Switch 2 that I'm saving to cover in next month's Switch 2 special.
Yeah.
As a small tease, expect coverage of Switch 2 upgrade packs for Tears of the Kingdom, Bowser's Fury, Pokemon Violet, coverage of brand spanking new Nintendo first-party games, Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza. The one thing I will say that I have played actually a little bit on my Switch 2 is the new Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4.
Oh, nice.
But, I mean, for a start, I'll say it runs and looks beautifully. It just looks wonderful on the Switch 2. It plays just as well as the remake of 1 and 2, which serves the brilliant purpose of playing just as well as you remember the originals playing.
Yes, yeah.
Even when they're now quite ropey, probably. Tony Hawk's 3 was my first foray into the 3D games, and I played the absolute shit out of 3 and 4 on my GameCube. Yeah. So it's been a joy to revisit them here, brought to brand new life with a very shiny paint job and so many extras and things to do that I'll probably never run out of things to do.
I mean,
it's just as well, because my Code in a Box is now a digital game in my Switch 2 forever.
You can't get rid of it.
No, it's a pretty perfect game to have sat on my console, to be honest, ready for me to scratch that itch when it, so frequently raises its head. I find it funny that so many people have heavily criticised this game. And in some cases, on actual reviews of the game, on one specific issue, like I've seen reviews actually like mark the game down a point for it not having the exact same set of songs from the original games.
Yes, yeah.
Firstly, several points here.
Yeah.
Firstly, anyone who is even aware of such a thing as rights knows that this is a considerable clusterfuck of a situation to try and resolve.
Miserable job for people.
Secondly, there's plenty of songs on here from the original games and a bunch of similar enough sounding songs from similar enough sounding artists. It's not like there's 2 songs on here and that's your lot. Thirdly, if, like me, you don't really like this type of music, you can just turn the music off and play some songs on your phone or listen to a podcast or a TV show while you play. Fourthly, I did find it a bit strange, though, that there's clearly like an actual collaboration with Spotify for this game, with I saw new playlists being added and updated in waves on Spotify, maybe in the game. I don't know if the soundtrack's being rotated. I really don't know. But if there was going to be a collaboration with Spotify, why not explore the option of integrating Spotify into the game so people could link their accounts and make whatever playlist they want?
Yeah.
I mean, probably something to do with rights issues. But anyway, all of those idiots can grow up and stop moaning about another brilliant game that, honestly, they don't deserve.
I've played this one too. I've played it on the PlayStation 5. And it, shiny, does the job. I like it a lot. The remake of 1 and 2 was good, as you say. The remake of 3 and 4 is also good. And for a long while, it looked like this game was destined to just be a what if after Activision moved Vicarious Visions to the Call of Duty DLC dungeons. I think they're still there, toiling away for fucking nothing. But thankfully, the Phoenix has risen thanks to developer Iron Galaxy, and we've got our shiny new, shiny old version of Tony in our hands, literally in your hands if you're playing it on the Switch 2 in the year our Lord 2025. And that's a nice thing to have. I used to be really good at Tony Hawk's games. 3 was also the first one I played. I played a lot of 3. I beat it with every character. I could do a career run in about 25 minutes back then.
I had the world record for cruise ship level
Unreal.
on GameCube. Yeah.
Unreal. But
36 million.
That's a lot of points.
Something like that.
Would you believe me if I said that Chris, approaching age 40, is no longer that good at Tony Hawk's?
I've never been less surprised in my life.
Not for lack of trying, but years have definitely dulled my muscle memory, and the number of times that I fluff landings on vert ramps or mess up the inputs for manuals or grinds or whatever, it's pretty maddening. But I'm going to keep trying because I like it and it's fun to have and to play. And it's a really good remake of really good games. And despite the internet also being upset, alongside the music criticisms, about Tony Hawk's 4 being truncated to fit the 2-minute timer gameplay of 3, I don't care. I really don't care, because believe it or not, audience, the original games still exist. They sold hundreds of millions of copies. And if anyone is that bothered about the remake playing a bit differently or having different songs, you can buy the original games and probably a working PlayStation 2 for about the same price as this remaster. So there you go.
But listen to the songs on your phone if you want to listen to, I don't know, Blink, whatever.
they weren't on it.
Who knows? Limp Biscuit?
I don't think they were on it either, but... Anyway, stop trying to be culturally relevant, Jonathan.
Snow Patrol?
Do you want some more headlines of other stuff I've played?
Yeah, give me some actual headlines.
Okay. I played through all of Limbo from start to finish again the other week.
Nice.
It's been a few years. It felt the right time to blast through Playdate's classic. Did you know it's about to celebrate its 15th anniversary?
Oh, God.
That's sickening, isn't it? I still think Limbo and Inside are the very best the cinematic platform genre has to offer. I still think Limbo is about more than just finding your sister, as it seems to structure its acts around very base human fears, and it really does something to you when you play it. I still think the ending, although less jaw-dropping than Inside, is proper heart-in-the-mouth stuff as well. It's just a really good game. And it's frequently less than £1 on digital storefronts, which is value that is so good, I think it ought to be illegal. Like, that's too much good stuff for too little money. I also revisited a game I played on the Vita years back and found again by chance on the Switch eShop, because it's currently the summer sale and there are close to 4,000 games on sale, which is ridiculous. But a game called Reed Remastered that I had completely forgotten existed. It's a relatively short sort of Reed, R-E-E-D, as in a wind instrument reed.
How's no
go? Yeah. There we go, useful. But yeah, it's a relatively short Punisher-style platformer, so think Meat Boy and company. It's 50 stages long. You collect an item to unlock a door, and then you navigate to the exit. Some levels are easy, some are hard, and you'll roll the credits in about 60 to 90 minutes, and you'll have a really nice time doing it, and that's it. But again, for the £1 or whatever it cost me, I saw it, thought that's a game I could play this evening, actually, and I could probably finish it. And I did exactly that. So yeah, some good stuff. I'm sure there is tons of other stuff to pick up as well. We will mention a lot more, I'm sure, when we talk about the Switch 2 in the near future, as you said on our special episode about kind of backwards compatibility and things like that. But yeah, just go to town. If you've got a Switch 2, there is a lot of game out there for not a lot of money. So enjoy it. Enjoy yourselves.
Why not? Do you want to know about a big... you know what? I'm still not convinced that I didn't talk about Doom already, but maybe it's just... I definitely haven't talked about it. I talked about Oblivion, didn't I? That was what I was
basically the same
about.
game.
Basically the same game. Do you want to know a slightly bigger game that I played, which feels like a long time ago now? Because I probably played through this 2 months ago and played through it in the course of a couple of days. And mostly forgotten about it. And not because it's not good, because I was already sold on Doom: The Dark Ages how much I enjoyed Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. 2020. But I did have a bit of trepidation going into the Dark Ages, because Eternal absolutely blew me away. It was just the most insane, violent, addictive action, and I just loved every second of it. My trepidation for Doom: The Dark Ages wasn't just about whether it would be as good as Eternal or not, because honestly, it didn't need to be as good as Eternal for me to have a really, really good time with it. But I was worried that given the maximalist content of Eternal, that there was nowhere left to raise the bar in the Dark Ages. They couldn't just make it more violent, more demons, more obscene, more blood, more hell, more guns, more everything. Because, I mean, for one, I don't think you could. And two, if you could, you'd die. So, fortunately, Bethesda came to this conclusion as well and decided to take a step, not quite backwards, but certainly sideways, and not try and match the rampant energy of Eternal, and instead forge a different experience within their Doom universe. Doomniverse, that's not a thing. That deliberately, it could be, it's not. That it deliberately takes on a very different pace to what they've done before. The Dark Ages sees you shoot back in time in the Doom canon, I think. It could be in the future. I don't know. Maybe not. I didn't...
Just a literal canon.
Yep. Yeah,
I honestly don't know, because the game's got a bit silly these days. So
yeah, you're absolutely right to question that. I don't know if you're shot back in time in a canon. I also don't know if you're shot back in time in the canon.
Yeah, but it is back in time.
Maybe it might not even be that. Honestly, I didn't even care enough to look it up. I mean, the story of this game isn't quite as good as Eternal, which actually made me care about the story in a Doom game for the first time. The Dark Ages is back to good old-fashioned, irrelevant nonsense. All you really need to know is there's a reason demons are here. There's a reason you need to kill them. And that's enough for me. There's still elements of the maximalist to the game, as you'll now see your Doomslayer pilot a giant flying demon dragon for aerial dogfights, and also suit up in enormous giant mech suits to, like, stomp and trample cities and kaiju-style demons. Which I guess is obviously the one area they could still ramp up the game in. And it is all blissfully, stupidly fun. But the big shift in the Dark Ages comes in the form of the way it approaches movement and combat, which is a lot slower, a lot more deliberate, much more weighty, thanks in part to your new addition to your arsenal, a shield, which you can obviously use as a shield, but you can also throw it, Captain America style. Obviously, it's got spinning blades on the edge.
Yes.
But you can also use it to parry and counter attacks, which means that the combat in the game takes on a whole new type of rhythm. It just feels incredible. Like, I mean, thanks in part to the amazing, like, DualSense controller and all of the feedback that you're getting from that, and the what are the
adaptive triggers.
Adaptive triggers, and all of the resistance you get from those. Every parry, every counter then you make with a shotgun, every ram you batter, honestly, it's just amazing. Like, it's a great new direction for the series. It doesn't supersede what came before with, like, you know, Eternal's rampant parade of chainsaws and flamethrowers and explosives, but it's instead created something different and equally as cool to play. The traversal and exploration in Dark Ages has had a bit of a change of pace as well. Like, it's more stripped back and I don't know, heavy, maybe? Maybe it's, you can't double jump, so maybe you just feel heavier. But and you don't, like, fling yourself all over a stage like you were doing in Eternal. It's still good fun to explore these levels, but it is a side of the game that I was a bit disappointed in, because, like, going back through and exploring all of the levels to find all of the secrets and unlock everything was one of the biggest joys in Doom Eternal. And, I mean, I absolutely didn't have the same compulsion, you know, to do that here.
Not even on the dragon.
Not even on the dragon. Not even on the dragon. The campaign of the Dark Ages runs about, I don't know, a fairly trippy 15 hours, maybe. Yeah. Without that sense of, like, wanting to go and 100% it did sort of leave me feeling a little bit shortchanged, because I happily doubled that time in Eternal, and I think that maybe in, like, refining some elements of the formula, they maybe threw a little bit of baby out with the bathwater. Again, not literally, but maybe.
Possibly.
I miss having, like, the sort of the hub where you could manage upgrades and go back through levels. I miss finding cheats to add on to make revisiting levels even more absurd and fun. I miss fast travelling around stages. Lots of things that Eternal did brilliantly that just aren't matched here. And they're not to be fair, they're not attempting to match it. They're doing something different. And, as we famously say, I can't criticise a game for being something different to what I want it to be, because that's not the game. But also, and I can go and play Doom Eternal if I want, whatever. All in all, though, The Dark Ages is a fantastic Doom game. It's a fantastic first-person shooter. I didn't think it was going to match up to Eternal, and it didn't. But that doesn't mean it's not a great game, But that's the thing. It's like I say with every Metroidvania. It's like, it's not Eternal Noctis, but what is?
Not Doom the Dark Ages either.
No, not that either.
As I just mentioned, talking about the eShop, in the future I'm going to talk a lot about Switch 2 backwards compatibility in our special.
Of course you are.
But I just want to mention, because it is relevant to the game we've been playing, I feel genuinely quite remorseful that I ever doubted Nintendo's approach on this one. I remember being really down on it before we kind of, we did our speculative Switch 2 announcement special. And I was like, well, they really haven't given us a lot to work with here. And it's software. It's not a hardware solution. So is it going to work? But, the library is close to 15,000 games on the Switch. And we're at close to 99% compatibility with that, which is ludicrous. And Nintendo are actively offering fixes for problem games with each firmware update as well. So literally last week, Portal 2 and Crypt of the Necrodancer did not work. This week they do. There you go. That's 2 more brilliant games that now just run perfectly. That's really fantastic. Anyway, as part of my own testing, so I've got a big Switch library. You can see some of them behind me. I've played a lot of old games, and I will talk about some of them next time. But one that I do want to talk about here is Dragon Quest Heroes, because I've played a huge amount of it. This is the Dragon Quest Dynasty Warriors hybrid, a la kind of Hyrule Warriors retooling as Zelda. And it launched for the Switch way back in its first year on the market, with 2 caveats. Firstly, it was completely Japan exclusive, never came out in England or America or the West at all. And secondly, it ran like dog shit on the Switch, because Omega Force had yet to dial in their approach to the hardware with their port of Hyrule Warriors. Like, basically everything they've released after that's been mostly okay. Obviously, the Breath of the Wild Age of Calamity did not run amazingly, but it was passable. But Dragon Quest Heroes was not that passable. I'll say it was not nice to play. So I was curious as to how the extra power of the new hardware might increase performance. So I chucked in my little Japanese cartridge, and lo and behold, it's now a completely smooth, locked frame rate, and I've played the game for over 20 hours, even though I can't read a word of it. It's mad. The Dynasty Warriors games, and all of their kind of associated Warriors spin-offs like this, are the closest we have to 3D beat-em-ups, a la Streets of Rage, I'd say. And even if these kind of crossover games are created with a touch of cynicism, because it's essentially going, look at the characters you like, they're all together and they're fighting big baddies. I am a bit of a sucker for it, because I don't even care about the franchises, but I'm still like, oh, look at all the Zeldas. Look at all the Zelda people. Like, I just enjoy having a big team to smash things around.
Rocky and Drippy and
they're all there.
Wow.
Now, normally in this sort of game, we'd talk at least a little bit about the story of the game, but as I've mentioned, I don't know what's going on. So instead, I skip every text conversation. I watch the very nicely animated FMVs with a bemused look on my face. And then I have to use Google Lens to translate menu options until I can basically find the options I need by rote muscle memory, which I've got quite good at now. But you start off as a party of 2. You gradually add to your roster with characters from other Dragon Quest games, which none of I've played. I've played the first Dragon Quest, and that's it. And they're all joining together to repel some stereotypically evil-looking Jafar from Aladdin type baddie guy. This is all irrelevant, though, because it's the moment-to-moment gameplay that is fun, and that's what's kept me interested, because you just hack and slash and cast magic and you fight through big fields of enemies. And in this one, you also have an ability to deploy monsters that you collect during battle, like a sort of soft Pokemon game. And you've got skill trees to upgrade, you've got things to craft and equip. It's all, the works as you'd expect it in one of these titles. And it's highlighted to me, as if I didn't already know, because we talk about it all the time, the importance of making gameplay fun for a game, because that is arguably the thing that's going to sustain you most of the time. And if I put this much time into the game on my shiny new Switch above Mario Kart World, above Cyberpunk, it's clear that the core is just good, satisfying design. I'm just having a nice time. It's become a bit of a running joke at home that when I'm playing anything on the TV, Georgia will compare it to Vampire Survivors. I don't know why that started, but here it does track quite well, because you're frequently swamped by 20 or 30 enemies at once. And it is a game just about pure power fantasy. when you talked about Diablo 4 recently, your overriding takeaway was essentially big numbers get bigger. That's a fun gameplay loop. And all of the Warriors games are essentially doing that. Whether you're suited and booted in the veneer of Chinese history in Dynasty Warriors or Gundam or Zelda or Dragon Quest, it's just about being powerful and then getting more powerful. And at that stage, who really cares about the story or the characters? Just give me a guy who swings a sword through big crowds, and then eventually give me a bigger sword that I can swing through bigger crowds. and I'm pretty happy with that. And that it now runs perfectly on the Switch 2 is just the icing on the cake. The Switch 2 is different to previous Nintendo hardware generations because it's not just a Wii slapped inside a Wii U. That was literally the solution there. It was just, we'll just put the hardware inside it. And in the same way for the DS, it just had a Game Boy Advance motherboard in it, essentially, to run the backwards compatibility stuff. The Switch 2 is different because it's running a translation layer, more like kind of Proton on the Steam Deck running Windows software for Linux. And the benefit is that if a game was ever limited by memory access or bottlenecked by the CPU or the graphics unit, there's a good chance the Switch 2 will just brute force its way to a smooth 30 or 60 frames per second, depending on how it was coded in the first place. So just free upgrades. So yeah, very niche, strange game that I've played a lot of. Good machine, good game. Games are cool. I like it. Fun, isn't it?
Do you want to know what I've spent most of my life doing in the last couple of months?
I reckon I can guess.
What do you reckon it is?
I reckon it might be a certain multiplayer rogue-inspired spin-off to your favourite game of all time.
Yeah, Elden Ring Nightreign. let me tell you about it.
Yeah, go on.
I mean, I know on paper, Elden Ring plus roguelike is the dream game for Jonathan Dunn.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect to be as taken with this game as I have been.
Yeah.
It wasn't an immediate sell because, there is quite a lot to get your head around, certainly for newcomers and even for seasoned FromSoft heads like myself. There's plenty of new things to get used to. And after I had a bit of a run out in the network test version of the game, I still wasn't sure if the game was going to be for me or not. And then, reviews came out that were generally pretty good, but we're looking at 7s and 8s, not 9s and 10s for it. Spoiler alert, I'm 150 hours deep, and it's almost certainly going to be my game of the year.
Yeah.
But to get to that point, it did take a little warming up. And I think a lot of that came round to me convincing myself that I could get on board with 3-player online co-op, which I was hopeful that I would, because it's something I always loved in, Dark Souls and in Elden Ring, was summoning allies to fight alongside me in boss fights.
Yeah.
And, even though I guess I sort of had my fingers modestly singed with subpar online co-op experiences recently with Monster Hunter Wilds. I think it was Casper, friend of the show, Casper. He said, you can coast your way through runs of Monster Hunter while being crap and having your teammates carry you, but you can't fake being good at Elden Ring.
Yeah.
So the caliber of players you're playing with are largely pretty decent. More of that side of the game in a bit. Let me tell you about how Nightreign works. It basically boils the core Souls-like experience that From Software have refined over the last decade plus into 40-minute experiences that tick off everything you love from those games and gives you the constant dopamine hits that you need to keep fighting on and getting stronger and learning and trying and winning. You start your runs by choosing from one of up to 8 different classes of characters that come with a preset fighting style and weapon, and 3 special abilities that range from powerful offensive attacks, area of effect attacks, buffs, lots of things that work in very, very different ways and are things that you don't see in Elden Ring. Then you are airdropped into a new area of the Lands Between called Limgrave, which is pretty big, but has a general sort of fixed topography across your runs. But then populating this land are a smattering of randomly placed ruins and churches and castles and everjails and mines and treasure chests, bosses, enemies, secrets. And then you and your 2 allies then fight your way around the land, beating bosses, finding better weapons and getting experience and leveling up to get stronger and stronger. After a certain amount of time, a circle of Nightreign, this is rain spelt rain.
Okay.
Yeah, the Nightreign starts to close the size of the map, to the point where it will gather on a final boss for that in-game day. You beat that boss, and you'll get a nice big perk. And then you go to day 2, the map opens back up again. You get the chance to do more of the same, except you're stronger, so you can take on some of the stronger challenges. And then if you get to the end of day 2, you beat the day 2 boss, you go on to fight a Night Lord on day 3. Winning that fight will be a victorious run. And there are quite a few different Night Lords to choose from on your runs as well. And they're all new bosses for Nightreign, and they're all epic and awesome. They all have individual elemental strengths and weaknesses, so you can sort of tailor your build accordingly as you fight your way through the days to reach it. Quite helpfully, your map will show different elements on the different sites around the map to give you a clue as to what type of weapon you'll get for beating the boss of that location. So, you know, if you're fighting a Night Lord that's going to be weak to fire, and then you see a set of ruins with a fire icon next to it, go there, you beat the boss, you probably get a fire weapon to use then in the Night Lord fight.
Yeah.
So you can quite quickly plot a route and hatch a plan of how you want to tackle your runs, and you do need to get a move on because time moves quite quickly. You know, it runs out quite quickly, and if you loiter, you'll get caught short or get caught in the Nightreign, which will eat away at your health the longer you stay in it. And there's loads of other things to try and target on your run as well, like visiting churches to increase your health flasks, or unlocking Everjails for extra boss fights, or fending off random raid attacks, and making sure you go to the mines to get upgrade materials so you can forge a stronger weapon, and just loads of things to think about. Like trying to stay coordinated, that's the key to success in a run in Nightreign, and you can always drop a pin on your map to wordlessly communicate with your allies as to where you think you should be headed next. And sticking together is absolutely key. A memo not everyone has got, unfortunately. More on that side of the game in a bit. The thing that makes Nightreign more of a roguelike experience is the way that the weapons system has been streamlined. For a start, there's no armour to worry about, aside from having space to pick a couple of talismans that give you extra buffs, but you mostly, your build consists of 6 weapon slots, and every weapon you find, well, pretty much every weapon will have a perk attached to it, whether it's increasing a certain elemental attack type, or increasing your health or defense in certain situations, or augmenting your strength depending on what type of weapon or stance you're adopting. And then holding on to one of these weapons, even if you're not using it, that's enough to then benefit from that perk. So your build is basically down to constructing a good selection of weapons to work together to strengthen your overall attack and defense, and your main weapon that you're using, or weapons. When you beat a boss, you get a treasure drop to choose from. Sometimes these will be weapons, they usually are, but sometimes they might be a passive perk as well to strengthen your build too. Weapons can be found in treasure chests around the world or as individual enemy drops, so it's always worth seeing what's dropping to see if you want to pick it up or not, if it's going to work for your build. And then there's different rarities of weapons as well, from your bog standard stuff to all the way up to, rare legendary gear with amazing effects. The main point of focus in your runs in Nightreign is still basically what it was in Elden Ring, which is collecting runes, which is your currency, to level up your character as much as possible. And you want to do that, as your absolute priority within a run of Nightreign, because it massively increases your stats each time. You can level up to level 15. That's when it sort of caps out. I think I did manage to win a run. I think the lowest was level 11. I managed to win it, but, there have been plenty of times when I've been level 15, had a strong build and a legendary weapon, and still lost. Sometimes because I've totally misjudged something in a boss fight. Usually because of the ineptitude of my allies. More on that in a bit. So you've got these huge overarching goals to aim for on your runs, trying to beat all of the different Night Lords to unlock a final Night Lord boss. And now, that introduced into the game, there are also rotating, time-limited, Everdark Sovereign bosses, which are basically souped-up, ultra-hard versions of some of the other Night Lords with whole new fight phases and things. They're ridiculous. And they give you a special type of currency then you can then use to buy super cool things. But something I didn't realise would be in Nightreign, as much as it is focus on a single player experience. And I'm not just talking about being able to play in single player mode, which you can do. You can do it totally on your own, not in co-op, and it is actually really good fun. Like the game, I think it was like day 2 or day 3, a patch came out just to balance it slightly, and it does balance it really, really well. The enemies and bosses, you know, they've obviously got less health. You gain more runes. I think you get a bonus like life to sort of take the edge off. And now that I'm fully au fait with the game, I really enjoy a single player run now and again. It's nice, cleanses the palate. But there are also individual specific character quests to work through across your runs based on each of the individual starting characters. And this is something that you can be sort of slowly chipping away at, even if you're doing it whilst you're doing multiplayer runs. And the thing about these characters, I just thought they would be just generic characters, just, you know, pre-made different stat variations, you know, like picking your cart in Mario Kart and your wheels. But these are all fully realised, considered characters in this world with their own stories, history and lore. And when you play as them, when you win a run, you'll unlock a journal entry, and then you start to piece together their backstory. And every few journal entries you unlock, you are able to trigger a remembrance, which is then like a special sort of quest that you get to do. And remembrances sort of take on different forms. Sometimes you'll have to just go and track down a series of characters around the Round Table Hold hub area where you are. Sometimes you'll be transported to an area of the map or a specific arena to maybe beat a certain enemy or a certain boss. But the usual way you'll need to clear a remembrance quest is fulfilling an objective on a run. Which it could be beating a certain Night Lord with your character, or by tracking something down somewhere on the map during a run. And the really good thing about this mechanic is that it doesn't need to derail a run in order to fulfill it. And you don't need to worry about, you know, starting a run with some random people and one of them is just going to go off on their own to abandon the main run to go and fulfill an objective that they're trying to do, you know, in their overall game. Because if someone in your team fulfills one of those objectives, or you help them, the whole team gets a really, really big bonus. So it's a good thing if someone has one of these active during a run. And it's just a really, really clever way of doing it, because it means that, yeah, you're basically playing a single player and a multiplayer game at the same time.
Yeah.
And like all of these character stories are all so good, like really interesting, verging on heartbreaking. Like one of them is upsettingly disturbing. Some are just shamelessly epic, and the rewards for doing them are you can then get some really, really excellent relics to equip onto your build for the next run. I haven't talked about relics yet. Relics are the sort of they're the roguelite element of the game, so allowing you to augment your starting character with a combination of perks to start your run.
Okay.
So like when you finish a run, whether you win or not, you'll always end up with a few randomly generated relics. They'll have either 1, 2 or 3 perks on them, depending on their size. So the further you get in a run, the more likely you are to get bigger relics with more perks. And the relic will then be either a red, blue, green or yellow one. And then each character has different orientations of relic slots of different colours. So my Wilder might have his relic urn is red, blue, blue. So I have to put a red one and 2 blue ones. I can't put 3 red ones in there. And it means that you can't just equip any relic you want. So you have to work to find the best combination for each character. You get to unlock different urns as well for different characters that have different colour combinations, but there's never a time where you can just put whatever you want on. So there's always strategy. There's always thinking about like how you can optimize the relic build for the character, and not just the character, but for, you know, the run that you're about to attempt. What elemental strengths, weaknesses you've got, what boss you might be targeting. It gets quite involving, like when because I mean, I've got thousands of these things now in my inventory, but it's really straightforward at the same time. So it's just easy to get lost in it for a while, just going through and being like, oh, maybe that could go with that. And oh, actually, if I get that perk on a blue one, that means I can free up my red slot to then do this and blah, 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 blah. And then you get to save like preset combinations of relics as well. So you can, you know, you can easily switch between them. So you get this sense of overall progression between runs. It's a small sense, but it is definitely a tangible sense, because like even though you know, the runs themselves will be the same. Your character is essentially just starting at the same strength each time. But like equipping the right relics and being like, oh, okay, I've just got a new one that does this. That is enough to make you feel like you're going in with just a small advantage. Well, I mean, less of a disadvantage.
Yeah.
Which I think is the thing. Right, let's actually talk about what it's like playing Nightreign with other people, because in the large part, I will say it has been surprisingly brilliant.
That's good.
For starters, it's really easy to matchmake, which is inevitable with it being such a new game. In order to unlock all of the Night Lords, and don't even know how many there are, 8, 9, something like that. I don't know. But in order to unlock all of them, you have to first beat the first Night Lord, who's still a big challenge. It took me, quite a long time to get to that. But the nice thing is that anyone who's doing a run targeting any of these other Night Lords, then is at least good enough to win a run. Yeah. Obviously, there's going to be people with different ideas of how you should play or how you should structure a run, and it was fascinating because obviously I was playing this day one. It was amazing, like seeing how sort of accepted routes through certain terrains and stuff emerge, that everyone started to do the same sort of way once we'd all sort of got on the same page, or if everyone had seen like, oh, okay, actually no, that is the right way to get through that bit to get to the boss and miss out that bit. And yeah, it's just really interesting how that sort of just organically evolved. I mean, the pinning system is all you need for communication, and that's great. Whether people follow it or not is another matter, and it is infuriating when someone just goes off on their own to do their own thing, because you really do need to stick together to make the best attempt at a run. Like, I'd much rather have a team of lower ability players sticking together than a bunch of worldies just being arrogant.
Yeah.
I mean, the worst type of people are the people who maybe cock up on a fight, they drop the runes that they were carrying, and as you do in Dark Souls, you've got like a one attempt to get back to your runes and to pick them up, and they might die again, they lose all their runes, and then they just rage quit, because that does totally derail a run for the other two players. Like, the game does then like readjust a bit for two players. Not immediately, I think. I don't even know exactly how it works. But I think, like, if you finish a day, the next day will then be slightly readjusted for two people. Maybe. I don't even know if that is the case. But in the most part, if someone rage quits, the rest of you are fucked. And there is a bit of a penalty, apparently, for quitting out of runs too much. Like, it puts like a timer delay on being able to matchmake again, but it doesn't seem to stop people. But when it works and you're with good people, which is most of the time, there's just a great sense of camaraderie when you're playing together. Like, if one of you dies, there's a little countdown timer before you die, and that timer is enough time then for one of your allies to get over to you, and to revive you in time. There's always like ways of there's also ways of like pinning certain items. So if like a sword drops and I go, oh, actually that's good. It's not good for me, but actually the type of character this guy's playing with, that'd be good for him. I can then pin it, and then they can be like, oh, cool, thanks. And certain characters' abilities can like synergize and combine with others too. So like getting on the same page and finding the right rhythm between you is hugely satisfying when it clicks. I must say that playing with randoms is, as good as it has been, is still absolutely no contest for playing with someone you know.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even need to be someone you know very well. Just finding some sort of consistency between you makes runs infinitely smoother and more enjoyable. And as luck would have it, none of my friends are playing the game.
No one at all?
Nope. And I blame the Switch too, basically.
Yeah, okay.
So I played for 120 hours with randoms until one particular run where we started by targeting an Everdark Sovereign variant of an already pretty big, tough boss. And immediately, the third player in our group just quit or left or got disconnected. I don't know. But the two of us just decided to just go at it anyway. We did pretty well on day one. We did very well on day two, and then probably both assumed we were done for going up against this final boss, because he can make mincemeat out of three of you quite easily.
Yeah.
But we did it, We just did an incredibly smooth fight. It was like we just totally understood what the others were doing, how to combine. We were totally on top of things. We made a great team. And I was thrilled when my new Spanish friend, Luis, sent me a friend request after the run to connect. And we've now been doing a few runs together pretty much every day since. And it's been fantastic. We don't chat during the runs. You don't need to be more effective.
Stick those pins down.
Yeah, we're just on the same page, and even just having two people knowing what they're doing and doing it well together makes a huge difference. Even if the third person, in the team lets you down, like I'm pretty confident in our ability now to claim that we could probably win any run we tried, unless something goes like terribly wrong. Which it has done a couple of times. We've been totally humbled because we took our eye off the ball with something. But, we're very well coordinated. We usually get up to level 15, with no problem, with a pretty optimized build. And, we're just taking down all of the Night Lords. Like we know the bosses really well. And like, it's been fantastic. I can't quite believe how good Nightreign is.
Yeah.
I can't believe how much content there is in here either. I know one of the easiest criticisms to make about the game is, they're just recycling assets. And yeah, of course they are. That's the point of a spin-off. That's why it's £30, not £70.
Yeah.
And they own it. And I like the fact that they're weaving in reusing assets from the Dark Souls games as well for, bringing in some of the older bosses into the game. It's fantastic. But when you see something like that, when you know a game is using, we've seen so many like Survivors games come out of spin-offs of other games, and you go, okay, you've just seen that Vampire Survivors is successful. You've got all of these assets already made. Just chuck them in a slightly different setup and charge £5 for it, and that's some money. That's not what this is. I was a little worried that there wouldn't be enough variety to keep me interested with only 8 characters and there's only one map. Like, even though like the map itself can alter drastically, I haven't even mentioned this. There's a mechanic called shifting Earth, and it basically means that randomly a fifth of the map will be switched out for a special biome, like a blizzarding mountaintop or a volcanic crater or a poisonous rotten forest or a giant ancient city. And all of those have amazing mechanics of themselves. They all have like a really cool secret hidden away inside them too, to try and get to and try and find. They've all got just really cool specific world bosses for the areas. So like there's some really good variety in the map in between all of the locations, shuffling around every run too. And the introduction of these Everdark bosses is great, although I'm now waiting for the next batch of them to come around because I feel like I've got all of their number now. You and
Louise.
Yeah, me and Louise. I know that DLC is coming for the game. I'm already licking my lips at the prospect of having new characters, new maps, new bosses, new Night Lords to learn and conquer. But I mean, Elden Ring Nightreign basically gives me the essentials of a full From Software game experience over the course of a 40-minute run. And that is insanely good. Like, verging on dangerously addictive. Like, I start to get jittery if I haven't done a run that day.
Yeah.
Everything I want from my Souls-like experience, I get every few minutes instead of every few hours in a bigger game. Getting a sense of achievement, satisfaction, and success every couple of hours instead of every couple of weeks. I'm 150 hours into the game now, and I've done everything that can be done in the game, but I still just want to play it because playing this game is so unbelievably fun. As a gaming experience, this is pretty much all I've ever wanted.
Extremely high praise. Do you want to hear about something completely different? And relatively bite-sized in comparison?
Yes, please.
Sega Rally's good, isn't it?
Yep.
Well, seeing as Sega haven't really thought about the series since 2007, I think, when Sega Rally Revo came out that I talked about recently.
Oh, yeah.
It's now ended up being the responsibility and or burden, I guess, of indie developers to try and keep the rally dream alive. So during the recent Steam summer sale, which finished a week or two ago, I stumbled upon a game I've never, ever heard of called Rally Arcade Classics. and it looked a bit like Sega Rally. The user reviews talked up its handling and relative breadth of content. And so for £7 or £8, whatever it was in the reduction, I was all in. And it's just a good racing game with plenty to do and medals to aim for and some ghosts to beat and online leaderboards to climb, like all the stuff I like doing in a racing game. Most stages, at least in the early game, are very short, like 60-second point-to-point time trials or a short drifting course or a brief start at the back and work your way to the front, of the pack sort of thing, like race style. But in time, as your skills improve and the cars you gain access to ramp up in power, the events open up, they get longer, they get more challenging, and there's hundreds of these things to do in little kind of like bite-sized portions, broken down into little groups that ensure regular rewards and fill-ups to keep you engaged. And without being particularly conscious of it, on several occasions, I've started an event, I've got the gold time, that's the best time you can get on a race, and then just kept racing my ghost to try and make my way up the leaderboard, because it's fun to see the number get lower as you get better. And I guess that's the real sign of a good racing game, because just the racing part is what makes it good fun. The fact that I felt able to get better as well each time is a sign that the handling is really solid and precise and learnable. And even though the whole package is very clearly a small team, low budget effort, it works really well. It's not a looker. I think it's perfectly serviceable as games go. But rather than go for a deliberately super low poly presentation that apes the classics, like the upcoming old school Rally looks like it's trying to just be a Sega Saturn game, or trying to capture the spirit of Sega Rally whilst boosting visuals as far as possible, like Overjump, which is coming up in the future. Rally Arcade Classics is somewhere in the middle, just making the most of what it's got. So even with all settings maxed out, it's still very modest, it's very functional, not stylized, just is what it is. And I think that's fine, because similar to something like New Star Soccer, which looked at, say, FIFA or Pro Evo at the time and realised that attempting to ape the presentation or scope of those games would be a fool's errand. Rally Arcade Classics looks at games like Dirt or older titles like Colin McRae or V-Rally and just tries to get to the core of what made those games fun, rather than worrying about the presentation as the primary thing. It's trying to find what is in the GUI centre beneath kind of the branded cars or the liveries or the photorealistic tracks and everything else. And the answer it arrives at, much like New Star Soccer, is just the rhythm of gameplay. So in racing, it's the rhythm of just flicking your analog stick left and right, or feathering the throttle and the brake to tease out a long drift. And all of that with kind of the satisfying chimes of checkpoints and, the stuff you unlock at the end of a race is just really good fun. So it doesn't copy its influences because it's clear it would never have the budget to do so. It can't go full mimicry. It just understands what those games were doing and therefore has its own juice. It's got the juice.
Oh God, we're back with the juice again.
The handling model is the handling model.
Did you notice in the artwork for that episode I had you holding a little pixelated carton of juice? I
don't think I did, actually. I have to go back and have a look.
Yeah.
But the handling model is just the handling model. The assists are minimal. There's no Forza-style rewinds or anything like that. You just have to stay present for the 1 or 2 minutes the race is. You just got to lock in, and if you mess up, you restart. If you mess up again, you restart, and eventually you get through it. And you get given a new race to do it again. And it just feels really good to play. I go to play for 10 minutes and I realise an hour's passed. There's no bloat here. There's just plenty of cars and tracks and times and medals and leaderboards. And it's a game that's just made by people who love old racing games. And they've made their own one for people like me to love onwards. So very glad to have taken a punt on that one. I don't know if it's got a big user base or not. Like I said, I'd never heard of it. Had never come across my door, as it were. But it's good. I like it. I can recommend it. It's probably a few more quid now because the sale's finished, but even at 10, 15 quid, it's probably worth it.
It feels good to be back, doesn't it? Back on the blimp.
I was going to say back on the road, but it's a blimp in the dirigible.
On the blimp. And we're in Switzerland.
Switzerland.
You ever been?
No. Sorry, a big mouthful of drink then. Was it nice?
I was very, very young. I remember seeing a bear pit. That was not.
That's not so nice.
Not so nice. Do you want to know some things about... Do you want to know some facts about Switzerland?
Are they connected to bear pits?
Nope.
No? Yes, please, then.
Here are some things from Switzerland. Switzerland, the land of chocolate, cheese, banks, the Alps, and low obesity rates. Switzerland sounds like probably the best prepared country for any sort of apocalyptic disaster, with apparently over 300,000 nuclear shelters built.
Fair enough.
Which is about one shelter for every 30 people. And now it's the law that every new building in the country must include a shelter and guarantees every citizen has access to one. So it sounds like, it just sounds like this is where Fallout is set.
The vaults.
Queen recorded 7 of their studio albums in Switzerland.
Didn't know that either.
Yeah. The best sans serif font, Helvetica, is Swiss. Between the cheese and chocolate industries, cows are very important in Switzerland and have their own rights, guaranteeing them regular care, welfare, exercise, fresh air, and proper natural food.
That's good.
And of course, it can only be known as a Swiss Army knife if it is a multi-purpose pocket tool from the country of Switzerland. Otherwise, it should technically be known as a sparkling accident waiting to happen.
That's a good one.
What of games, Chris? What of Swiss games?
Well, the Swiss are not necessarily known for massive AAA games, but there has been a fair few indie hits from the country, especially in the last decade or so. So a lot of these names you may well recognise, even if you haven't played them. You've probably heard of some. Are Lone Sails and its sequel, Far Changing Tides.
Yeah.
The pair of post-apocalyptic wander-em-ups or drive-em-ups or vehicle-em-ups come from small team Okomotive in Switzerland. Fabraz Games, who are responsible for Slime San, as well as all entries in the Demon Turf series of throwback platformers, also from Switzerland. The Square Enix published Demimonde, that's the team, developed Octahedron, which is a very cool vector-inspired rhythm platformer, also from Switzerland. You've then got the stylized exploration horror of Mundawn, comes courtesy of a company called Hidden Fields in Lucerne.
It's be good, that.
Yeah, I've heard that. Imminently releasing city builder atop a giant roving beast, The Wandering Village, comes to us from Stray Fawn Studio in Zurich.
Really want to play that.
It looks nice. It looks very, very pretty. And the procedural infinite co-op train track laying puzzle game, it's quite a mouthful, not mouseful.
Full of mouse, mate.
Unrailed.
So full.
That also comes to us via Indoor Astronaut, who are also, as many of these companies are, in Zurich. But the biggest Swiss-based developer is almost certainly Giant Software, who are responsible for the bizarrely popular Farming Simulator series. This is now a basically annualized series, and unarguably, I'd say, the biggest of all the sim games, like in terms of genre and in terms of just industry success, really. I played one entry in this series on the Xbox 360 when it felt a relative novelty to have a game this niche, this kind of like weirdly anal about the things it was interested in on a home console. But it's now available for every current gen system, whether that's the Switch, you can get it on your mobile phone, you can get it on the PS5, you can get it on Steam, you can get it on the Xbox, wherever you want. Everyone's stuff with licensed tractors, licensed silos, licensed scarecrows, I don't know, something like that. But they're really popular. So yeah, Giant Software, Switzerland, big farms. Did you play a farming game? Did you winkle out a Metroidvania from somewhere in Basel or something like that? Or did you find something completely different?
I found something completely different. It's a game called Isle of Arrows.
Tell me about this game.
I'm looking forward to Riverside auto-captioning it, saying how much I love arrows 400 times.
Yeah.
Isle of Arrows is a really, really lovely little game that I've put quite a lot of time into, actually, over the last few months, because it's sort of become a little bit of a routine game for me playing on my phone.
Oh, mobile.
It's you guessed my mobile phone, Chris, not my landline. It's a...
Like, do you remember the shows where you used to have people call in to take part in, you'd like shout a command over the phone and it would make what was the little troll called? Hugo. There was a whole bunch of shows that was like that weird troll thing.
Actually.
And it was like shouting left or right to avoid obstacles and stuff. And there was a huge telephone delay. They looked miserable. And yet every time one was on TV, I was like, Mum, can I phone? And then she was like, no, because it's £1 a minute, so don't be ridiculous. So I never got to play Hugo on Live and Kicking, whatever it was on.
Bleach. Isle of Arrows is a tile-based tower defense game with a bit of a roguelike twist to its runs too. It's very minimalist. Like I said, it's playable on mobile in portrait mode too, which is very, very nice. It is also available for PC and Mac through Steam. Mm-hmm. It's got loads of modes and options and a hefty amount of challenge to keep gameplay interesting for quite some time. So I haven't cheated, but Daniel Lutz, who made the game, he is Swiss. Yes. He lives and works out of Montreal and has done for most of his career, I think, where he worked at Square Enix Montreal. He headed up Lara Croft Go and Hitman Go, which were also very, very cool, clean, minimalist puzzle games. And you can definitely see the design ethos being retained for Isle of Arrows. On the surface, Isle of Arrows is much like any other tower defense game. You fight off increasingly strong waves of enemies in between having turns placing paths, building and upgrading towers, trying to maximize the damage output of your route on your enemies. Every turn you draw randomly selected cards, and then you can choose to play one of those or pay some of your money, in-game currency obviously, to reshuffle the cards, which is where the beginning of the roguelike twist is at play. Beating X number of waves yields bigger passive upgrades to help bolster your build. Also, over the course of a run, which is about 40 waves, you won't just have to manage and optimize your one route, as two others will eventually randomly spawn in. Sometimes you can sort of weave a route into your existing build to sort of multi-use some of your towers that you've already got. Sometimes you'll have to start spreading your resources thinner and thinner to encompass all of the growing horde of incomers. You also have to manage your playing space as well, because, as alluded to in the title, you are on a floating island. You can't just freely build in any direction, although if you have some spare bridges, you can extend your island into the sky. You also have bombs to help clear unwanted obstacles, like water tiles that will often go with path tiles that you have to then factor in, so they can't just go anywhere. Quite nicely, there's several different guilds to play as, each of which have their own mechanical quirks and twists to tweak how your resources need to be managed or how you have to set out your islands. There's permanent unlockables as well, like certain building cards and passive upgrades to be folded into the RNG pool for future runs. There's 4 different campaigns to play through, well, sort of 3. Well, there's a tutorial campaign and then 3 other campaigns, each with 6 guilds to play as. And then there's daily runs. There's a gauntlet mode, which I haven't unlocked yet, so I don't know what that does. The beauty of a randomized roguelike setup is that even with the same pool of stuff, everything's thrown up in a new order every time to keep it interesting. But it does help that Isle of Arrows has so much to do in the game as well. There's a really, really nice amount of variety within the runs as well, just in terms of the stuff that you have on offer. It's not just a tower to shoot an enemy. You know, there's going to be different enemy types that appear. It's all very minimalist. It's all very, very clean, but it's very clear that, you know, certain enemies will have different icons on them that mean they're going to take or need more damage, or they're going to move faster or slower, or, you know, whatever. And then there's all kinds of different sort of offensive buildings that you can build. You can build traps. You can build, obviously, towers that shoot arrows. You can build things that assist other towers and upgrade other things around it. There's a lot to do, and it's all just very, very good. It's very good. I will say this about Isle of Arrows. I find it very hard. It's not a criticism of the game, not even a statement about the game. It's a statement of awareness of my own ineptitude with strategy games. I am not great at planning ahead with anything. So strategy games, most board games, things like chess, just they're out of the question, because, I mean, I could do the thinking. I don't want to. I don't want to force my brain to think like that. Yeah. The very notion, Chris, exhausts me. Isle of Arrows feels actually like a board game to play. I think it would actually work really well as one. I talked to him about that. But there's several board games and a couple of video games that I will still happily play, knowing that I'm not going to be good at it, because I enjoy the process of playing it. Like Carcassonne or Agricola or Heroes of Might and Magic. I like playing those games, even though I know I probably suck at them. And Isle of Arrows can join that group. Like, I have one run in my time playing this game, and I still enjoy playing it. One day, maybe I'll chance my way to another win, but I like playing it because it's so well designed. I'm also sort of slowly unlocking other bits and bobs in it. It's really easy to pick up. It's actually a really good showcase for both the tower defense genre and the sort of mobile roguelike genre, which, you know, in a game that you can play on mobile, it's very hard to come by good examples of those two genres on mobile in amongst the wallowing mire of free-to-play miserable effluence.
Yeah, that's some shit.
I think it is free to download, and then, I don't know, 3-4 quid to fully unlock the game. It might actually just be that price to buy it on phone. I think on Steam it's about £10. It's really, really good. It's a really, really good game. Much like The Country, Big plus.
It's a disarmingly good joke. It's annoying.
Stupid, isn't it?
It's really silly.
Much like the country's flag. That's it.
Get it one more time. I played something different. Another one that is Swiss on a technicality. I would say it is statistically...
I was eating a Toblerone while playing.
It is statistically 50% Swiss. Because I've been playing a game called The Bug Butcher. It's an arcade-inspired, arena-based, run-and-gun game. It's developed by a two-person studio called Awfully Nice Studios. And the main coder is from Austria, but the artist is called Till Aschwanden and hails from Switzerland. So half the team are Swiss. So I'm having that. The Bug Butcher is available on all platforms, including mobile. It draws heavy inspiration from an arcade game I really like called Pang, and that is really its primary point of design reference. Now, to explain how it all works, in Pang, your character must avoid bouncing balls and other obstacles on single screen stages. You have to carefully time kind of taking vertical pot shots upwards to clear out all the enemies of a level before moving on. And it's very fun, it's very frantic, and it takes real skill to get good at, because you're constantly having to adapt to the simple physics of these targets careening around the stage. Different objects have different weights. Some will float slowly down towards you. Others will bounce with more urgency. But you've got to think about your position on the screen to not get eaten and minced by whatever's coming towards you, basically. The Bug Butcher takes all of what made Pang fun and tries to make a more involved single-player game from it. So you are a little spaceman tasked with clearing out wave after wave of aliens from different space station locations. And variety here comes in the form of the way that each alien bounces or moves around the play space a la Pang in its own kind of way. They've all got patterns to learn and ways that they react to your shots and everything else. Some will just go down in a single shot. Some will take multiple shots. Some will splinter into ever smaller enemies and bounce around. Again, like the game's arcade inspiration. The visuals here, and that's the bit I need to talk about, I guess, especially seeing as that's the Swiss part of the project. They're really good. They crib heavily from the very elastic design of Alien Hominid, whose primary artist, Dan Paladin, is, I would say, alongside Ed McMillan, still probably one of the most successful Flash to not Flash crossover artists of the early 2000s onwards. They both very much cut their teeth making stuff in Flash. Their visual design really reflects that because of how kind of stretchy everything feels. And now they're both making games and things, obviously not using that as a primary platform, but have maintained that kind of look. Your little bug blasting man has a lot of character to the way he mooches left and right. All of the enemies have a great squidgy, almost like Animaniacs quality to the way they kind of pulsate and bounce around the play space.
Steven Spielberg produced.
I know. There's an endless score mode. There's a more focused, mobile-inspired, go for 3 stars on each stage style single-player campaign that I've been trying to work my way through with limited success. Regardless of which mode you choose, though, there's a range of weapons and power-ups to snag. There's persistent character upgrades to be had. There's a lot of variety, really, in what is ostensibly quite a simple game. As you go through the campaign as well, stage hazards begin to be introduced from the second batch of levels onwards, and then they further mix up the challenge as well, because you're avoiding maybe like a fire hazard at the side of the screen or something that appears for a small period of time and then disappears or whatever. So there's always things to kind of manage and balance as you are shooting enemies too. I'm currently halfway through the campaign. I'm at a bit of an impasse because... 1, it's hard, and 2, using my brother's patented reworking of the mastermind mantra, I've started so I'll finish, I find it tough to move through levels when there are still stars to be had. So when it says there's 3 stars and I beat the level and it goes, you got 1, I go, well, I could get 3, couldn't I? If I just carry on, I could get 3. But it's really tough in this game because it's not only about your score, which means you need to play consistently well and not take damage and everything else, but almost every level is also tied to having a pretty much unbroken combo as well, which means that once you kill an enemy, you've only got a second or 2 to kill another one to keep the streak going. And
that sounds so stressful.
Yeah, the multipliers are getting higher and higher as stages go and making that harder and harder as I try and get through it. And it's really tough. But in a way, I think this is the real game, because pushing and playing for speed and having to make split-second decisions about whether you're going to dash to keep the combo alive or play it safe in the corner is how Pang works as well. If you're playing it in the arcade, you've got a timer at the top of the screen ticking down. You need to be kind of actively moving to make sure you get through the screen, get through the stage, and also hopefully try and get up the high score table, in classic arcade fashion. So it's nice that the Bug Butcher manages to capture some of the white knuckle play, even if you're not actively trying to kind of go for a place on an online leaderboard. It still captured the arcade feeling, I think, even though the structure is different. Talking with my brother earlier, we played an ungodly amount of the semi-modern Pang remake, Pang Adventures, back in about 2016. I had a copy on the PS4, and we beat the entire thing in co-op. We got kind of the top rating on every single stage. It took us months of on-off play. And I'm really excited to find time over the summer, now that I've broken up from school, to show him the Bug Butcher and see if it piques his interest enough to try and play through it in co-op as well. Because that's another mode I haven't touched, because Georgia's not going to play that with me. So I'll see what he thinks, if it's something that kind of gets him interested. It's hard to say, given that I've not played it, obviously, if the game elicits the same level of like communication and sort of spirit of dynamic planning that Pang did. But if the care they've put into the rest of the game is anything to go by, I think it's got a fair chance that that will be pretty successful as well. The Bug Butcher, I think, is a really strong package. It's another big plus for Switzerland. It looks and sounds really nice. It plays well. There's plenty to do for the few quid it'll set you back. Again, I got it in the Switch, not the summer sale, a previous sale, because there's always 3,000 games discounted. But I picked it up at some point for literally £2 maybe. And I know that you don't necessarily enjoy kind of twitchy arcade inspired games, so it's probably not going to be for you. But if anything I've said has pricked anyone else's ears, I would say do check it out, because I'm playing on the Switch, but you can get it anywhere. It's on phones as well. It's a mobile game, it's a PC game, it's a console game, it's a handheld game. Wherever you want to play it, it's there. And it might be that someone goes, oh, that's exactly what I was after. So yeah, the Bug Butcher, I think, is a good game. It is half Swiss, half Austrian. We've obviously been to Austria before when I talked about SpongeBob SquarePants.
And I did Dungeons of Hinterberg. Hinterland? No, Hinterland's a Welsh thing.
Round the world in 80, who gives a fucks. But yeah, Switzerland, pretty good. Even though a more limited selection of games, some really interesting and pretty solid indie titles in there if you want to kind of dig into the weeds a bit.
Chris, where are we going next? It's your choice.
Well, I think we should make previous guest Gregory from our Playdate season happy and visit his native country of Ukraine.
Ooh, yeah.
Some big names there. CD Projekt Red are Ukrainian, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, there's some big stuff in Ukraine. Some big stuff. Oh,
very moody.
It is, isn't it?
So there's some big names in Ukraine.
Fantastic. I might ask Gregory to give to select a game to play.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So there we go. That was Switzerland. It is great to be back on our Around the World in 80 Games tour. We're going on a break again next month because we're going to do a Nintendo Switch 2 special before returning to our Around the World in 80 Games format to go to the Ukraine and play 2 Ukrainian games and celebrate the games of that country in 2 months' time. But there's a lot of good stuff to talk about. Switch 2. I'm excited. It feels like we've had enough time to really sort of get our heads around it. And it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a bloody good one. If chat to us on our social media at O3C Games on everything. Tell us what you're playing. Tell us what countries you want us to go to. If you've got a game that you want us to play, talk about on the show, we will. Maybe. Join us on the Discord. Go to our website, o3c.games. Check out the support page on there if you want to help support the show. We'd love that. But just come and chat to us. Play games. Play Nightreign. Get good. Talk to me. In that order.
You could be the third man in the team of Jonathan Dunn, Luis, and you.